glorify you, Jesus. Magnify you, Lord. You're worthy of the glory, Lord.
Kingdom of heaven, he is at hand. Last week we concluded with the fact that when you know your start and finish in an area, and when you know that God is for you, it doesn't matter who or what is against you. And that is what's going to walk us into our last part of this year's series, which is fruit. And when I get all of the information that God is going to have me cover in a year, I see it, I lay it out, and then he shows me what order to put it in. He shows me which way to add it. And quite frankly, when I got this one last year, I wanted to do fruit first. And he said, no, that's going to be your last one. I thought, last? Why are we going to do this one last? And he said, you'll see. And now I clearly see why that had to be last, because as we covered prayer, at the very start of the series, and we began to understand how, you had to develop who you are in prayer and knowing about those things. And, we looked at also what we just came out of, and that what we just came out of, I hope, was very helpful to you, because as we're still going to do your actual individual assessments as to how you think through things. And that's why I wanted you to have all of that information that we covered concerning the brain and all of that. That's why I wanted you to have that before we actually do that assessment, because again, I've done different assessments for companies as far as they wanted you to take these tests, and then they'll tell you that you're type 1 or all of these different things, and I didn't like those because that didn't cover me enough, and I knew it. And then when I finally found the one that some of you here at Ecclesia have already taken before, I still want you to do it again, because once we do it, you're going to see how much you've actually changed, and how you rethink things, and how you really focus on things, and how you process things. And I'm saying all that because that lined up and guided us into this part of fruit. Because the way you think produces something every time. That's what you've got to understand. The way that you think produces something every single time. There's not a time that it doesn't produce something. Now that's sometimes good, and that is sometimes bad. But every single time there is production produced with something that you thought. That's why the word is so crucial in telling us to take captive every thought and bring it into the obedience of Christ. But see, the problem is there's been a lot of areas that you still haven't found out what Christ really thinks in those areas. So you don't know how to reel that stuff in. I love you, and this is going to make more sense to you than any other thing that I've ever taught you. After you really start to understand how he's equipped us and the way he wants us to succeed. When he says in his word that as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. That's laying out a precedence to let you know that if you don't change the way that you thought about the last failure that you had, you're going to have that failure again. If you don't change the way that you thought during the last failure that you had, you're going to have that failure again. So that's why it's so important, because, see, I want to go to what we started out in 1 Peter chapter 4. 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 11 through 17. I want to show you some things before I really get in depth into this, because y'all know how we do. I'm going to just give you a lot of overview for just this part today, and then we'll be digging deeper into the parts in the coming weeks. But I want you to see some important stuff, because in 1 Peter 4, it's funny, because this is my second Bible that I've had to get, and it's about on its last legs. I've got loose pages everywhere and everything else, and this one as well. But the original time that I started actually looking at this Bible, it's a Cambridge Bible, it's the King James Version of the Bible, but when I originally started looking at this particular Bible, it was after my dad died. And I got his Bible. And it was a Bible that he preached out of. And I got it, and just like anybody, he had marks in it. And 1 Peter 4 is one of the places that he had marked. And when I first seen it, I was like, close that one and put it to the side. Because I ain't trying to know about no fiery trials. And I ain't trying to know about all of the things that are spoken here. But in 1 Peter 4, verse 11 through 17, over years I've looked at this and I've studied this, and I've paid close attention to a lot of the words, and I pay close attention to the fact that when I hear these words outside of churches and Bible and all of those things, it strikes me. Anybody that knows me knows that I'm a Steph Curry fan. I like Steph Curry. I like the Golden State Warriors because they pray before every game at every chapel that they go to across the country. They do that entirely as a team. I like them. Once I heard that, it was like, okay, they're my Christian brothers. I gotta like them. That's it. Period. Well, anybody that knows the Golden State Warriors, you've heard their home court. Their actually home court is called Oracle Arena. I don't know if that was intentional. I don't know nothing about that. But when you read this, and it says, if any man speak, let him speak as the oracles of God. Says, if any man minister, let him do it as of the ability which God giveth, that God in all things may be glorified through Jesus Christ, to whom be praise and dominion forever and ever. Amen. When it lays it out in that fashion and says, if any man minister, let him do it as the ability which God giveth. That's why I do what I do the way that I do it. And I make no apologies for it. I'll only change it if God says change it, because I'm me. Amen. And I ain't gonna try to be nobody else. I ain't gonna try to. It's odd for people whenever they come in on Thursdays and they see me sit down. They're like, preachers are supposed to stand up whenever they're teaching. No, I'm gonna sit down. I'm gonna relax. I'm gonna be me. Well, he's always got on polos and t-shirts. And I'm going to keep wearing them. Because I tried putting on the whole suits. I tried doing all of the things. I tried the bandit collar.
We've come to glorify you, Jesus. Magnify you, Lord. You're worthy of the glory, Lord.
Kingdom of heaven, he is at hand. Last week we